Pizza Hut did far more for comic books than the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever did.
As I suspected, 32 flavors.
I am going to boast that claim from now and until death. And I'm just going to stand by it because way back in the day, Pizza Hut, yes, remember when Pizza Hut, the pizzeria where they had like the personal pan pizzas? If you read books in school, which you should be reading anyways, but they did that if you read your books, you got your free personal pizza. Also had the Killer Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace promo that they aligned with KFC and Taco Bell for. Well, along with that, Pizza Hut was also a gold mine for the X-Men animated series of the 90s. This was gigantic. This is obviously from the Jim Lee drawn run. Like, obviously, one of the biggest selling comic books of all time. It was crazy. It was like a cultural phenomenon. And I found this article, courtesy of Ya Boi Zack. He chose not to do a video on it, post on his community tab, but thank you for posting it, because if you didn't post it, I wouldn't have material to talk about. So this is a very long article, but I figured I'd at least highlight a couple of excerpts from it, because really this article is absolutely worth your entire 15-20 minutes of reading. It's really damn good, and it really is very insightful, and I'm going to highlight some bits and throw some opinions on those bits as well, because this kind of brought me back, but at the same time blew my mind on things. It's just crazy, like, how this all happened. And let's go back, way back, 30 years, to when Pizza Hut was much stronger, on a bigger level, with big businesses, with the top hat and all, relevant. So, we'll dabble into this a little bit, alright? So right here, they talk about how, like, comic book heroes were, their presence in other mediums was very minimal. Like, you had, like, the occasional TV show, The Incredible Hulk, Batman 66, Wonder Woman 77, the occasional, like, cartoon, a few toys, but X-Men was a big game changer. And it was perfect because it was 1 year after Batman, the animated series, really took off, that X-Men came in. It was just like shot through the roof, just like Batman did. And it was like within like a year of each other too. So let's read a bit of this. So the early stretch of that decade was a remarkable one for non-comics media starring superheroes. We weren't just given a sudden influx of material to enjoy, but lovingly crafted efforts that sparked a generation of comic fans. There were the Marvel trading cards, look at that, see, that launched as a sensation in 1990, spawning a deluge of follow-ups from the company and its peers. The X-Men arcade game hit in 1992, and this site's only beat them up for anywhere from 2 to 6 players consumed quarters at an obscene rate. And then there were the Piezas de Resistance. Batman the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series launched in back-to-back months in 1992. I stand corrected. I said a year apart. Creating an enormous wave of passionate fans in the process. The comics were thriving too. Just like I said, of course, as titles like 1991's X-Men #1 arrived at staggering record-setting order numbers. But that stretch was massive for comics curious as fans of trading cards, arcade games, and cartoons, who were legion like the show, began to cross over to comics thanks to these efforts. And of all the characters, the X-Men were arguably the most favored. And that's true. I remember being a kid and seeing how gigantically massive the X-Men were. Like, it's insane. Absolutely insane. One of the longest, runs of comic books, Chris Claremont doing the X-Men, like, in history. Like, it's staggering. It was insane. Like, I'll admit myself, I've never been like a X-Men guy, a huge X-Men guy. I've seen some of the movies. I like some, don't like some. But just because I'm hit or miss with it doesn't mean you can't pretend that there wasn't a big, phenomenal influence of this world from the Marvel comics. This was undeniable. It was gigantic. You couldn't, like, go places without seeing at least someone in, like, a Wolverine shirt or something like that. Like, even normies at the time latched onto a character like that. A lot of the jocks, even jocks who were, like, not really big into geek stuff, they liked Wolverine. It's true. I went to school with some of those guys. And trust me, when I was in middle school and high school, like, comic books were just, like, frowned upon. So, yeah, this is a big deal. But I like this bit here that's coming up. So, we're going to glance over the paragraph after. But there's this one other paragraph here. It says, hitting with 2 waves of X-Men related products and merchandise, which included placemats, collector cups, a special personal pan pizza box, custom comics, VHS tapes, trading cards, posters, a coupon book, and a contest to meet a quartet of comic creators. That does not happen anymore. I mean, to be fair, it should not happen right now, given the current crop. But just imagine if there was a crop like this nowadays. Some of these guys are still going, most of them, but not in this capacity like this. Can you imagine if these were like the guys of this like caliber were running Marvel Comics or running the X-Men? This would be huge. And it also emphasizes like the creators, not just the big IP that is the X-Men, but lets you know like these writers, these pencilers, these inkers, the colorists, editors. These guys were also just a huge deal to these books as well. And that was cool because, you really want to know, hey, who drew this? Who made this happen? And they're making what looks in the comics translate onto other mediums. So you see a recognizability. So when you look at that stuff at Pizza Hut eating pizza, and then all of a sudden you might be at the 7-Eleven when they used to have comic book stands, like, oh, hey, I recognize that art. See? Comic book shops going exclusive for their books was a big fuck up. And this is something Chuck Dixon talked about when they got them pulled from the newsstands. A terrible move because they missed generations from this. And manga took advantage, and they may have not been on newsstands, but they sure went on a bunch of art places. And they took advantage of that where the Western comics market did not. And they're going to continue to grow. They're bigger than Western comic books right now. And I don't think that there's not a market for Western comic books. Eric July, ISOM proved that. It's just they're not getting to areas of accessibility, placing it in hands of places that people go to in their everyday lives. This is a thing right here with Pizza Hut making all the difference. You pay respects to the IP and the creators involved, and you get to enjoy some pizza. Come on, this is huge. Anyways, we'll carry forward. It's difficult to emphasize just how much pizza this inspired me to eat at the time. You're damn right. It was a smart pairing as kids love pizza and were obsessed with the X-Men. See, look at the promotional ad right there. Look at that. That ad says Pizza Hut pizza with all the extras. You got the pun right on the nose. It highlights the creators right there. Look at Andy Kubert, Chris Pachal, Lee Weeks. I would have actually liked to have gotten some from Lee Weeks. And look at all that. Look at that. The placemats, the cool pizza box right there, the cups. If I had one of those cups, I would have kept that shit to this day. And the comic books. Holy shit. Look at that. You don't see with like the MCU movies. And granted, I was a big fan of phases 1, 2, and 3. And No Way Home from phase 4. But you didn't see them really emphasize from the comic books. Like, you had some creators involved early on, but it seems like they teetered away a few movies later after that. And this really promotes the books. This is how you do it. This is insane. So anyways, this is a notable part I want to also highlight from a Marvel penciler here. Russell Dottermead says, it wasn't just me either. Every time this promotion comes up on my podcast, a different comic creator will reach out about their fond memories of this campaign. None is more consistent in that regard than Russell Dotterman. Now a popular Marvel artist, Dotterman was a semi-regular Pizza Hut customer at the time, as well as an avid viewer of the X-Men cartoon. He described this tie-in as a moment for him as a budding fan. See, look at that. So I'll admit Russell's not like my favorite type of a penciler. He's not bad. He's very clean, very sharp with his stuff. So, he's decent. He gets the job done. He's not bad at all. So I don't know. Is he still even doing the books anymore? Last I checked, maybe he is. I don't know. But anyways, this is big because it shows you right there. He is a guy that was just, I'm going to guess maybe he was just regular kid, teenager, saw this, latched onto it, made him a fan. It got his attention. And we'll read that line that proves that. The Joe Madureira placemat, sorry if I butcher that, from X-Men Pizza is one of my favorite pieces of art ever. The team, the composition, costumes, poses, colors. Gene, I love it so much, Dotterman told me. Especially as a kid, I thinking the X-Men are the coolest thing ever. To have that reinforced by their seething omnipresence made an exciting time to be a fan. It had to have been. Can you imagine being a teenager and getting a hold of the comic books or all this stuff? It had to have just been like a thing. Like this is mainstream then to respect the source material and to promote the books along with the cartoon. You didn't really see that with the MCU, and obviously I know James Gunn and Peter Safran are working on the upcoming DC Comics universe, and I know Gunn's an actual fan of the books. His tastes are mixed in my opinion on what he likes, but I'm hoping that for every Woman of Tomorrow he covers something that's among the caliber of like a great Green Lantern run like Jeff Johns did, something of that caliber, because Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is not all promising. But let's not get into DC territory because that's not relevant here. We kind of went on a tangent though, but well, its impact has been largely been lost to the sands of time. It's hard not to look at that promotion as a moment, as Dodderman put it, and it's a moment worth revisiting 30 years later. So today, we're going to look back on that promotion, how it came together, the work that went into it, and how it truly is, in its own way, an important part of the comic book story for fans of a certain age, even if it really was just a way to get a whole lot of kids eating way too much pizza. There's no such thing as way too much pizza. Sketched, this is a great article. I love it. I'm a fan. You got me engaged, even rereading this now. But there's no such thing as way too much pizza. Just there's no such thing. So I want you guys to still be able to look at the article, click on it, invest in it. But you got to really look into this because this is seriously such an engaging read here. But I want to highlight once again another small part because you should take your time to look at this one. But I highlight this right here. It says, because this is all mostly new to Marvel, Morshead, Thomas, and the rest of the team had to figure it out on the fly. And that would be Daniel Morshead, the art director from Marvel. Former Marvel in turn turned art director. He said the rest of the team had to figure out on the fly. Marvel's marketing group, of which Creative Services was a part of, built out style guides to share with licensees to ensure everything related to the publisher was used properly. But from the start, the team had a goal in mind. They wanted to establish that Marvel produces Marvel art, as Moore had put it. Back then, art directors or designers at licensees would eagerly work with Marvel characters, often depicting them in a non-comic way in the process. It was Creative Services' goal to ensure that anything featuring Marvel characters looked like it was produced by Marvel. This is very important because, as Morris had told me, if you fail, Marvel fans will call you on it. And that's true. We would have been the quickest to have done it. And once again, like the newsstands, promoting at Pizza Hut, my Ghost Rider figure, I found a really old Ghost Rider figure from almost 30 years ago at a comic book store, never take out a package, and guess what it came with? A comic book. Yeah, it was like mini size, but still, like, the books were the priority. The books were the priority. I think in the last 5-10 years, I think maybe some serials had some mini comics, but it just shows you once again, like, everywhere these products, these IPs, they went, the comic books went with them to really put those at the forefront because these were the things that gave us the classics, and you gotta respect that. Anyways, carrying on. If we could make ourselves happy, then we knew that the super fans would be happy as well. Heard that, my friend. Heard that. Seriously. So they talk about their approach here. They said the best way to keep it, they found it was to keep it simple, based off need. They knew that the initial promotion would require designs and art for 4 cups, a placemat, a personal pan, pizza box, and 4 comics. The comics were easy. They could easily hand off to one of their coworkers in Glenn Herdling, who ran Marvel's custom comics department. For the rest, they had to work with Pizza Hut's advertising agency to acquire the dimensions of and templates for the box, cups, and placemat. From there, it was out to the races, as Morris had told it. And look at that. That's one of the Pizza Hut comics right there. Collector's edition. Got the logo there. And it looks authentic. It doesn't make you think, am I getting really a legitimate thing? Like, this is the real deal. That's awesome. Once again, promoting the comic books. I think it's safe to say I'm hammering a point here. And also, Mr. Thomas here. Let's see. Let me get the man's name here so I don't miss it. Because it says here, Thomas says, this stuff paid way better than regular comic book work, Thomas said. Well, Thomas, I agree. I strongly agree. Even artist Scott Koblish came up at Marvel as one of its vaunted art apprentices, dubbed Romita's Raiders in honor of the publisher's art director, John Romita. By the time this promotion hit, he was a freelancer mainly doing inks, including projects for creative services. Well, he was excited to work on this promotion because one of his earliest jobs was at his local Pizza Hut. The real draw was the money. Kolbush recalled that inking a regular comic page at the time would get him $60, but some projects for creative services would earn him over $1,000. The difference in rates came down to who was paying the bills. Yeah, see, that's kind of a big deal if you really put that into perspective. Once again, just the priorities there. The priorities. And also that was for referring to Thomas as Mike Thomas. So you're all following with me. And also I'm purposefully leaving bits out so you guys can go out of your way to read this in full context, because seriously, it's so worth it. That's why I just really wanted to highlight this to you. Look at those. Look at that right there. Look at those cups. Can you imagine if something like that came out today? If we were investing in books, it should be huge. And I truly feel like the books would get a genuine boost if the comics were like something that a lot of fans are enthusiastic about, and you got things like this to promote it. Dude, it was the perfect storm. Comics, cartoon, promo material. I'm just saying, it's right there. It's the perfect storm. They even gave you like a little mat here too. The backside of the place mat. The backside of the placemat. Wow. And it's loaded with info about the X-Men and art from people like Jim Lee, John Romita Jr., John Byrne, and more. Seriously. Guys, this is what we need. Like, and it doesn't have to just come from Marvel DC. It could just come from anyone. Like, obviously doing this stuff is expensive and takes a lot of extra hands getting involved, but it shows you the difference when people are into a property and then people in another medium get into the same property but from another medium, and then you transcend it into this. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I want to get this last line here. It says, because of the success of this campaign, Pizza immediately wanted to do another. They went even bigger this time. It's likely most famous for its 2 VHS tapes, with those featuring episodes of X-Men the Animated Series and creator interviews. But it also included mini comics, trading cards, and a fold-out poster by Bill Sienkiewicz, a second placemat, and a Pizza Hut Super Savings book featuring the history of the X-Men within its pages, as well as a contest to win lunch with Stan Lee, Bob Harris, Fabian Nicieza, and Scott Lobdell. Guys, look at this stuff. Look at this stuff. I would have loved to have had some of this stuff, like especially if I was like a fan. Just imagine how an X-Men fan would feel. They're probably going through the roof over this. They're probably collecting every bit of this that they can get their hands on. Look at all the love for the books. The books. Far more than the MCU did, even on their good days. Even on the good days. Moral of the story, respect the source material. And promote it in other ways that are accessible for people who may not be as knowledgeable to look into it. There's more, but I'm seriously, read into this, guys. It's worth it. There's a promo design for Cup with Jean Grey, and that was Paul Mounts. All I'm saying is, guys, read this article. I just want to give you some insight into this with my opinions. The link will be in the description. Look into this. I promise it's worth your time. Until then, you all have a magical day.